the framework of our Constitution. The national officials must bring a proposal on the reconfiguration of leadership of KZN and Gauteng to the NWC within a week period. Whatever action is taken should not interfere with the work of government in the two provinces.
Is the ANC's push to disband leadership in KZN and Gauteng about renewal, or is it just another power grab? With Fikile Mbalula's ambitions in the spotlight and Lesufi seen as a threat, are voters the last thing on their minds? Let's unpack this. Greetings, fellow South Africans, and welcome back to Inkare It's Time. I'm Kondos, your host. In our last video, we asked whether our leaders are really for the people. Today, we are zooming in on the ANC's leadership crisis and their plans to disband the provincial executive committees of KZN and Gauteng. This isn't just about internal struggles. It's about the party's declining support and the political future of South Africa. Is the ANC acting in the best interest of the people? Or are we witnessing a battle of ambitions between leaders like Fikile Mbalula and Panyaza Lesufi? Let's break it down. The ANC's national crisis. The ANC struggles in KZN and Gauteng stem from significant electoral losses in these two key provinces, both economic powerhouses of South Africa. The NEC claims their focus is on renewal, but power dynamics tell a different story. Fikile Mbalula's push for disbandment could be linked to his presidential ambitions. Panyaza Lesufi, seen as a contender, might pose a threat to Mbalula's aspiration.
12 today, when the Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, does that media briefing. But a summary of what I got from Fikile Mbalula is that reconfiguration basically means he has 2 weeks to dissolve this week, dissolve the two provincial structures of ANC in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. Then when President of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, comes back from Davos at the World Economic Forum in the next meeting of the officials of the ANC, he as the Secretary General will then present names that will form part of the reconstituted provincial task teams of these provinces, which is called reconfiguration, which will encompass some of the incumbent leaders of the provinces infused with new leaders that will be brought in to reinforce the provinces.
Was gravitating to interests and polarized, among others, by the mobilization along the lines of 2027. And the National Executive Committee have said, no, that must stop. And that the mobilization on this particular matter, which is about strengthening and building organization, it was polarized by the fact that others were mobilizing along the lines of what must happen in 2027 in the organization. And it was unfortunate that a very important discussion like this one and the fate of these provinces was hijacked by factionalists for factional reasons about the future of the party in terms of what will happen after Ramaphosa. It is really unfortunate. And it did happen. And the NEC itself expressed itself on this matter and say it must stop.
Party Secretary General Fikile Mbalula revealed that the ANC's National Executive Committee was highly divided along factional lines on the action to take regarding Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. This follows the ANC's performance at the polls last year, where its support dropped drastically nationally as well as in KwaZulu-Natal to 16% and 34% in Gauteng. Both provincial structures will thus be changed by the party's national officials after a decision was taken by the National Executive Committee.
Reconfiguration means that we are going to be tampering with that leadership. So that's the mandate that we've got, and that's what is going to happen. So we've got to bring reinforcement into that leadership and at the same time probably maintain what you have or not. And that's what is, but it's very clear what needs to happen in the framework of the ANC constitution, we reconfigure, we go to the ground, we announce the reconfiguration to the structures in the next coming week.
The ANC's national officials will meet next week Monday to finalize the reconfiguration of the provincial structures, after which members of the ANC in both provinces will be addressed.
You can't reconfigure anyone without being guided by the constitution. So that's what it means. So you are guided by the constitution in reconfiguring the thing. I know the buzzword is dissolution, you like, is reinforcement, others like, but overall it's a combination of the two, and then choosing the path of uniting our organization in terms of intervention.
The national officials were split on the nature of the reconfiguration, on whether it means disbandment or not. The ANC's constitution stipulates that a structure can be suspended for 3 months or dissolved and an interim provincial task team put in place.
The NEC's resolutions. The ANC's NEC outlines several principles for rebuilding, including the following. 1. Fostering unity across leadership levels. 2. Rebuilding party structures, focusing on grassroots support. 3. Utilizing the experience of past leaders. 4. Political education to strengthen the organization. But here's the real question. Are these resolutions truly aimed at benefiting citizens, or are they a smokescreen for internal power struggles? What citizens must demand. The ANC's internal issues have a direct impact on governance and service delivery. Here's what we as citizens must demand. 1. Transparency in leadership decisions. The reasons for disbanding the PECs must be clear. Is this about renewal or a reshuffling of power? 2. Focus on governance, not politics. KZN and Gauteng are critical provinces. Leadership changes must not disrupt essential government functions. 3. Accountability for declining support. Electoral losses are a symptom of deeper issues: poor service delivery, corruption, and disconnection from the people. Citizens must demand real solutions. 4. End the factionalism. Political infighting distracts from addressing the challenges faced by ordinary South Africans.
Stephen, when you spoke to him a little bit earlier, my key question mark here was, what does a reconfiguration really change for the party in two of the most significant and most important provinces, one would say, for the party, at least over the last 2 decades?
Rabila, it's the perfect question. Reconfiguration probably means whatever the top 7 national officials of the ANC want it to mean. I say that because in the past, when the ANCs had problems with provincial leaderships, they've done badly in elections, it's usually had the option of disbanding them. And in fact, in some cases, it's actually done that. If you go deep enough into history, it's certainly done it fairly often in leagues. The fact that it is now not doing that, but also that it has taken so long to come to this decision. It's fully 8 months after the election. We've all known what the result of the election in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng has been for a very long time now, Arabile. Also, I must just point out, this is, by my count, the 3rd National Executive Committee meeting of the ANC to discuss this point. It's been pushed back twice, and it would seem that this may well be a compromise of some kind. In other words, it goes to the officials. The officials will now make a decision about what to do. They also seem to be keeping all of their options open. So, for example, some leaders could go, some leaders could leave. Some might find that their positions are changed. When we asked Fikile Mbalula about who has the final say, it would appear to be the actual national officials themselves. So yes, they'll bring the proposals back to the National Working Committee. He said the National Working Committee will process them. I don't think, from my understanding of what he said, that means they will be able to change them in a substantive way, and then they'll go to the branches to explain to them what's happened. But of course, underneath all of this is the fact that the ANC really does need politically to react to the huge loss of support it had in the elections last year in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. and of course look ahead to the local government elections, currently expected late next year. Constitutionally, they could possibly run over into the first part of 2027. What this really means is that the ANC needs to act, it needs to make a change, and at the same time, it needs to make sure it doesn't do any further damage to itself by doing that.
Stephen, you've covered the ANC and South Africa's political agenda for a number of times and years as well now. Does this give you a feeling that perhaps the ANC is in an existential crisis?
It's such an important question, Arabile. To an extent, perhaps it could, and the argument would go like this, that what the ANC really needs to do now is show to voters that it's reformed, that it's renewing itself, that it is making a change, that it is able to win back their trust. And there are a few ways it can do this. It can do this symbolically. It can act against leaders that have been accused or found to be guilty of wrongdoing. It can also do it in a very substantive way by responding to voters' concerns about their living conditions. If you look at the way most South Africans live their lives in the last 5 years, from 2019 until the result of last year's elections, you will probably find that for the majority of South Africans, their lives are more violent, more dangerous, more difficult, and poorer than they were before that. And that is one of the reasons, surely, that the ANC did so badly. So the ANC absolutely needs to react. But it would be better for the ANC, I would suspect, if it were to react decisively. And the fact that it is not responding decisively to this may be an indication of how difficult it is inside the ANC for it to actually properly react to the problems that it has. Bear in mind, if, for example, it were to act decisively, go into KwaZulu-Natal and disband the leadership there, it would clearly be worried that it would be pushing some leaders and some members of the ANC there into the arms of an awaiting MK and former President Jacob Zuma. And that is their concern. And it is very interesting to me, at least, that the ANC has not really grasped the nettle of what happened in KwaZulu-Natal. It's been honest that the Zuma factor was that Jacob Zuma was a factor. Of course he was. I think most people watching this will accept that. The question, of course, is whether people in the ANC were helping him. And there's been suspicion, no proof, I must just say, but the ANC may be very concerned about being seen to act too far, to go too far in disbanding the ANC's leadership in KwaZulu-Natal and thus provoking some kind of response. And this maybe gets you to the phrase you used, an existential crisis for the ANC.
I have two questions, Stephen, but I need to ask them, I suppose, very quickly. But one, why not some of the other provinces? KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, yes, being the most significant, are not the only ones, however, that the ANC suffered losses in. Why are they only changing those two and not some of the others?
So I think the reason would be the scale of the loss, the significance of it, how many votes they lost. Bear in mind that in Gauteng they went from just under 50%. They had a numerical majority in the provincial legislature because of the seat allocation, but they were actually at just under 50% in 2019. They went to 35%, which interestingly is exactly where the Gauteng ANC was in the local elections in 2021. They went to 35%, so they lost a huge number of votes. In KwaZulu-Natal, of course, they fell to 17% from having a majority. Again, if you look at the local government results, you could see this. It's the simple scale of the loss which really is leading the charge for these two leaderships to be disbanded or for action to be taken against them.
Strength is always in leadership, and the buck has to stop with President Cyril Ramaphosa. What is his position and his tenure sort of looking like then? Is he still maintaining the support of the party?
That's a very complicated question. For the moment, it would seem that yes, if only because very few people in the ANC really want to provoke a succession battle or a leadership battle right now. The president certainly has political power through occupying the presidency, the positions he can appoint, the appointments he can make, the fact that he can hire and fire a cabinet. In a way, Cyril Ramaphosa's I suppose, big weapon, his A-bomb, if I can use that expression, has been what it has always been from 2017. What would happen to the ANC if he were to resign? Would it be able to elect a new leader? And I don't think the ANC is currently in a position where it could have that election just yet. And so to avoid that, people will make sure they do not act against Ramaphosa. Also, crucially, to remember that while his level of support from the public polling that we see among South Africans has fallen significantly, he can thank the Phala scandal for that. The fact is that for a large amount of the time he's been leader of the ANC, he's been more popular than the party he leads, a reminder, of course, of the ANC during the years of Nelson Mandela. And as a result, the ANC would find itself in a difficult position if he were no longer its leader. We may well find out, of course, how difficult that will be in about 4 years' time.
The ANC's challenges in KZN and Gauteng reveal more than just electoral losses. They show a party struggling to balance renewal with political ambitions. As citizens, we must ask ourselves, are we letting these power struggles go unchecked? Our voices, our votes, and our vigilance are more critical than ever. If the ANC or any party wants to rebuild, it starts with listening to the people they serve. It's time to make your voice heard. Share this video and spark the conversation. Comment below. Do you think the ANC's moves are about renewal or internal politics? Stay connected to Inkari. It's time as we continue to dissect the issues that matters to you, because together we can hold our leaders accountable. Remember, it's not just about them, it's about us, the citizens. Let's make our time count. Inkari is time. Thank you for watching and take care.